Alright, you can see by the thumbnail that this project really tested me, so if you want to see my hardships, you can skip to the 6-minute mark, but if you want to stay with me through the whole project, I'd be happy to have you here. So we're going to start by milling up our lumber. The only wood I'll be using here is walnut, the rest will be epoxy. Having a stop block here is really handy to make sure all my square pieces stay the same. If one of them got out of whack, the whole board would get out of whack. That would be definitely a problem. I'm not going to show you the whole process about how I make my epoxy molds. I'll leave that for a different video. But I'm using MDF and then I wrap that with Tyvek tape and seal the joints with silicone. After I get my mold all wrapped up and secured with silicone in all the corners, I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on the back of each of my walnut pieces so they won't float around after I pour the epoxy in. Remember, wood does float. I guess there's many different reasons why one could say I like the color green here. It's the color of my business logo. Upcoming in March is St. Patrick's Day, so have your pick. Me personally, I just think it looks really good. So my original plan here was to fill up the green squares about halfway up to where the walnut is, and then fill the rest of that with clear epoxy, so you could see the depth of each individual piece. Sounds like a simple plan, right?
Simple plan, 2 parts.
I had never used this brand of epoxy before, but it worked fine when I was filling up the molds for each of these individual chest pieces. One thing I did notice about the molds themselves is that the pockets of air that would form in there after I dumped the epoxy in, I would have to squeeze the mold and make sure all the air bubbles popped out. Not a big deal, just had to make sure I did. And here we go. This is part of my demise. When I was pouring these clear, it was about 5:30 in the morning, and I couldn't really go anywhere to get a bigger measuring pot, and I didn't have any, so I had a bunch of these tiny cups, and I thought I'd only have to make like 2 or 3 batches, but I ended up having to make 5 or 6, and I'm thinking that 1 or 2 of those batches didn't completely mix right, and that's what caused the clear to not harden and not mix. My fault, not the epoxies, but you live and learn. While I was letting the clear dry, or what I thought was letting it dry, I'm going to pull out all these individual chess pieces. And for my first time doing it, I think they came out pretty good. There was a couple air bubbles in there that I didn't get, but from a normal distance away, you can't really tell, so I don't really mind. Alright, well, it's been 4 days now, and the clear coat is kind of mushy. I mean, you can see right there, it's like leaving my fingerprints in it. And like even like shit over here, it's still goo. So I gotta think of something here, because I refuse to throw this project away. Brain, think. I got this. It'll be all right. So, going against my better judgment, after going through every possible scenario, I had to try and keep this project alive. I came to the conclusion that the CNC machine was the only way possible I was going to get through all of this without completely screwing it up. So I put the cheapest surfacing bit in my machine and sent her on her merry way. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but holy shit did it make such a mess. There's half-dried epoxy thrown everywhere. I ended up putting up barriers in between the project and the machine rails because too much debris was getting inside the belts. As you can see, it looks like there's stalagmites literally growing off my machine. Huh, this is going to take a while to clean up. Machine deserves a beer after this one. After that hellscape was over, I think I'm on the downhill slide now. So I just have to pop out what's left of the epoxy off the bottom piece of the mold. I really needed to be careful here because if this would have cracked or broken at this point, I think I just would have broke down crying. After it's out of the mold, just a quick scuff sand and a water pop to ensure my final sand will be my final sand. Over to the table saw to square up the edges. I barely took anything off these cuts. I made the mold within 1/8 of an inch to not waste epoxy. That shit's expensive. This is, I don't know, about the 3rd time I've ever used this Porter cable router jig, but it's pretty simple enough though. There's a bunch of online tutorials if you ever want to check one out. It makes doing dovetails an absolute breeze. After the dovetails are routed out, I go over to the router table and cut out my slot so my board can actually sit inside of my frame. I couldn't go the whole way to the edge, so I just had to get it close enough and then clean up the rest with a chisel. I'd almost forgot that I made a badass dead blow hammer last month, and I could use it to pound these in, so enjoy that. I didn't get to this part on the video, but after I put it together, I took a little bit of walnut dust and glue and just rubbed it over each of the joints. The joints were tight enough to not require glue in between them, but there was a couple gaps that I wanted to fill in with that, so. Then I'm just going to sand it to about 220 and leave it at that.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
I'm just kidding. Of course we're going to go up to 600 and then all the way to 1,000. Probably could have gone way more, but I figured this was good enough. Onto the trusty spray enamel and coat everything up. This is probably the most versatile spray application that you could ask for. Like I said in the last vid, I put that shit on everything, and it looks beautiful. I originally wasn't going to add lights to it, but after clear coat kind of went to shit, I figured why not. So I got these lights off Amazon. They were like 10 bucks, battery operated pack, so you don't see any wires coming out. Works real good for this. I can switch it to any color I want, but since our epoxy's green, I think the green lights look the best. This was a fun project despite its pitfalls, but again, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, enjoy my content. Wouldn't hurt to check out another video I got queued up here either. Bye!